All right, Tiger Net. This is Leon Trotsky. You can put the face to the profile. I'm probably going to start making more videos. I'm currently at home with COVID. Still have some minor symptoms. I can't go into work until I test positive. And honestly, responding back and forth on the message board is kind of boring. So I'd rather just release a long video to get my thoughts and opinions, because it feels like I have pretty controversial opinions. Although, if you ask me, I'm always right. I'm the smartest person on that board. Those of you who disagree with me, you're just wrong, clueless. You got no idea what's going on. But here I am, Leon Trotsky. I just want to say I'm not a communist. I know it's really funny. At least it's funny to me that people always call me a commie. I get it because of my name. I'm actually not a communist. I made that account in my educational psychology class at Clemson. At the time, I was writing something like a 20-page paper on the Bolshevik Revolution. And, Trotsky's obviously a major figure for the Bolsheviks. So I just used that name. That's just the name at the time. I knew it was going to be controversial. I knew people were going to respond to it. So that's honestly why I did it, for the controversy. This video, I really just wanted to talk about the season, maybe express myself more openly so everyone has a sort of an understanding of where I'm coming from. It's hard to call the season a disappointment, right? We won 11 games, won an ACC championship, improved in the win total from the previous year, winning the division, winning the championship, something we didn't do last year. So obviously doing that this year, you would think we're taking a step in the right direction. So I guess if you just look at the totality of the season, it's not a disappointment. And I'll probably take that stance, right? I don't think it was a disappointing season. The results were the results. However, if you go week by week, like game by game, almost every game was a disappointment, right? So go back to the season opener. We're playing Georgia Tech, terrible team. They end up firing their coach, probably deserved to be fired a lot earlier. I mean, they've been a disaster under Jeff Collins, just a total disaster. During that game, I mean, it's in the third quarter and it's 14-10, right? Like, Clemson has this overwhelming talent advantage against Georgia Tech, and we're up 14-10. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, at one point, it was 17-10, and we're facing like a 3rd and 4, and DJ's basically getting sacked, and he just tosses the ball behind him to Shipley, and Shipley gets the first down, and sort of we're off to the races, and we win 41-10. But honestly, if that play doesn't happen, I mean, who knows what the outcome of that game will be. I think we would win, but it's probably a lot closer than 41-10. That game was just such a disappointment. I mean, I think most of us can admit that. Clemson should not be up 14-10 against Georgia Tech in the third quarter. A bad Georgia Tech team, a poorly coached Georgia Tech team. It just doesn't make any sense. And of course, DJ's start was pretty bad. I think he fumbled on a 3rd and 2, or dropped the snap on a 3rd and 2 on the first drive. And then Cade's drive at the end was just incredible. He just drove us down the field. The offense looked differently. He did it with backup wide receivers. I was pretty impressed with what Cade did, and I think a lot of us were wanting to see Cade go ahead and start. I kind of was wanting to wait, let's give DJ a couple more opportunities. But it definitely did seem like the offense was better under Cade. But week 1, we won 41-10. I'm still disappointed. We didn't play a complete game. Started off really bad, 14-10 in the third quarter. Unacceptable given our talent level compared to Georgia Tech. And then we play Furman, FCS opponent, right? We're up 21-9 at the end of the second quarter, and we drive for a touchdown to go up 28-9. I feel like Clemson, our talent level, we're playing FCS. That game, I would have loved to have all of our backups play somewhere in the mid-third quarter to the end of the game, right? Maybe have like a big lead at halftime. First string comes in. They get one possession third quarter. They go down and score. And then all of the backups play. I've seen Clemson do that a lot against FCS teams, where we have backups pretty much play almost the entire second half. That wasn't the case with Furman. And I get Furman won 10 won 10 games. They're a pretty good FCS team. I mean, you're talking about one of the top 5 teams in the country at the time. I mean, we should not be struggling with Furman. At one point in the third quarter, with like halfway through the third quarter, we're up 35-9, and we don't score a single point after that with our first string in. I mean, that was just embarrassing, and I was disappointed after that game. And the excuse of, well, we only had a couple days to prepare, I get it. But still, even though you only have a couple of days, you got to make a better statement win than 35-12 against an FCS opponent. The fact that your first string can't score any points with like 7 minutes left in the third quarter all the way to the end of the game, that's pretty bad. Okay, so 2 weeks, both performances disappointed. And then we go to LA Tech, Louisiana Tech. They ended up being a pretty bad team. I think they won 3 games this year. We're up 13-6 at halftime. I mean, at one point in the fourth quarter, it was 34-20. Again, this is a G5 team that ended up not being very good, and we're just struggling. Right, 13-6 at halftime. We're a top 5 team, up by 7 against a G5. A 34-20 game in the fourth quarter against a G5 school. Again, this was a game where I thought our backups would get a lot of playing time. We would build depth during the year. But no, our starters have to be in for almost the entire game. That's just unacceptable, right? Even though we win like 48-20, we pulled away late in the fourth quarter to get that score. That's just terrible, right? These are games like Furman and LA Tech were great opportunities for Cade to get a lot of series, backups to get a lot of series, build that depth over time. We just couldn't do it, and our starters pretty much played almost the entire game. So again, third straight week, disappointed. And then we go to Wake. Obviously, we all know our secondary got absolutely torched. In the past, it felt like our defensive line kind of blew up that mesh. And, I don't think that we didn't do a good job of that this year. It's just our corners got absolutely abused. But to be fair, I think Wake Forest probably has one of the best receiving cores. Maybe the best receiving core we played all year. I think a lot of those guys are going to play in the NFL. But yeah, it was a struggle, right? Nate Wiggins got torched. Pride, Lucas, Fred Davis. Fred Davis was just awful that game. But DJ obviously saved us. DJ, that arguably might have been his best game of his career. Obviously, the 2 games his freshman year were pretty special, but that Wake game, everything at stake, probably the division on the line at that point, that was huge. But I was still disappointed, right? I still think, I was really expecting more of our defense this year. I think we all preseason hyped this defense up to be one of the best defenses in the country. All of that pretty much has to do with the defensive line. We just thought the defensive line and even the linebackers with Carter, Trotter, and Simpson, we kind of just thought that front 7 would just be so good that it would make up for a somewhat weak secondary, but obviously it didn't against Wake Forest. And then we moved to NC State, probably our best, most complete game. The only thing I can mention about NC State is we're down 10-6 right before halftime when DJ throws that sideline pass to Shipley. He scores. We go up 13-10. They review it. They review whether he was down. He actually was down. We ended up he was down like the 1-yard line. Go back and look at that play. I promise you, he fumbles. I mean, he really does fumble into the end zone for a touchback, and it just doesn't get called. Go watch the replay. Ball clearly is coming out before his knee's down. That's just a missed call by the refs. If they had gotten that call, we're going to be down 10-6 at halftime against NC State. I still think we probably win. Our defense played pretty spectacular in the second half. At one point, it was like 30-13, and they kind of got like a garbage touchdown at the end to make it 30-20. But definitely our best performance against a legit team. I mean, I really think if Devin Leary was healthy all year, NC State would have been definitely top 15, if not pushing top 10. I believe they would have won 10 games for sure. That was a inspiring performance in my opinion, and I thought that was going to springboard us. And then we played Boston College the following week. Offense struggled early. We ended up pulling away. 31-3 win in Boston College against a pretty bad Boston College team. They were reeling at that time too. I was pretty happy with that. 28-point win on the road. Sure, we didn't play a complete game, but big win nonetheless. DJ played pretty well. I can remember a couple plays where he looked off the defenders. Like, he threw that bomb to Ngata. That was beautiful. And then he had looked off defenders in the end zone to find Bo. It looked like DJ's about to have a big year at that point. And then we go to FSU, phenomenal start, but we take the foot off our gas, and I just don't know why we would do that. There are obviously games where I think Streeter made a lot of bad decisions, maybe even Dabo as well. He's the head coach, so he probably makes a lot of these decisions as well. But taking our foot off the gas, allowing them to make it a one-score game at the end, was a little disheartening. I was glad we won, and I felt like we were a lot better than them. We just took our foot off the gas and allowed them to come back. I do think, however, if we played them today, they probably would beat us. I think they're just one of the hottest teams. They have a lot of momentum carrying into next year. Mike Norvell seems to be a good coach, probably has that program heading in the right direction. That'll be a fun rivalry again. Can't wait for it. After FSU, we go into Syracuse at home. They're undefeated. And man, was DJ just really bad that game. Obviously, we put in Cade. A lot of people give Cade the credit for the comeback. I think if we're being objective, the coaches just relied on the running game. The running back saved us, which is very interesting to me because I can remember one of my South Carolina friends texting me that game about why, being down multiple scores in the fourth quarter, are we running the ball? And, my response was that we should run the ball, right? We can't throw the ball right now. Their corners are just – their secondary is too good, right? Jahad Carter was the number one transfer safety. Garrett Williams, Deuce Chestnut. Those two guys are probably going to play in the NFL at corner. They're lengthy. Even that Isaiah Johnson kid probably will play in the NFL at some point. They just had good corner, a really good secondary, and our receivers obviously are really, really bad. Well, I shouldn't say really bad. They're not very good, not what they used to be at least. So I figured we weren't gonna throw the ball on them. I think Cade was 2 for 4, so the idea that he came back and led us to a victory. No, Shipley and Maffa led us to a victory. But what's interesting to me about this game is the coaches realized that the running game saved them against Syracuse. Down by multiple scores in the fourth quarter, we're still just running the football. But for some reason against South Carolina and Tennessee, we just abandoned it. And South Carolina's even funnier because we had the lead, but I'll get back to that. Later. Still disappointed after the Syracuse game. Notre Dame wasn't even close. They destroyed us. Embarrassing performance. They imposed their will on us offensively and defensively. That was just a terrible game. Obviously, I think putting in Cade was the right call. However, when they did it, when the coaches decided to put him in, that didn't really make any sense, backed up that far. Notre Dame has all the momentum. He rolls out, tries to make a play, throws an interception. I feel like if he had been put in a different situation, he probably takes the starting job, maybe after like a kick return or something. He probably takes the starting job at that point. He starts the rest of the year. Maybe the whole season looks differently. I don't know. Notre Dame, obviously everyone disappointed in that. Louisville, good bounce back win at home. They did lose Malik Cunningham in the first half. He didn't play at all in the second half. We were up 31-10, and they scored a garbage touchdown to make it 31-16. I was glad they had a bounce back win. I wasn't totally disappointed in the Louisville game. I would have liked to have seen more offensively, but not a terrible performance. Miami, I kind of figured we would blow Miami out. In fact, I was tailgating. I live in Columbia, and I teach at a school in Columbia. I was tailgating at the South Carolina-Tennessee game with my best friend. And, I remember he was asking me, if I was worried about the Miami game. And I remember telling him I'm more worried about the South Carolina game than I am the Miami game. I turned out to be right about that. I just felt like Miami, their season wasn't going the way they wanted. They had all that hype. They probably had given up. So I felt like we'd cruise to a win. This is where the Dabo's culture 100% is a good thing. I don't think our team gives up. I think Miami just gave up. And 40-10, I was happy after that, right? And then South Carolina week comes along. All right, so again, I'm teaching at a school in Columbia. Most of my students are South Carolina fans. All week going back and forth with them. I honestly did not expect what happened. I think every Clemson fan can probably agree with this, right? We just thought we were going to win. We're the better team. I still think we're the better team no matter what South Carolina fans say. They're just delusional if they think they're better than Clemson. This was honestly just the worst coaching performance I've seen in a really, really long time. To just abandon the running game when it's working and go straight to the passing game that is not working made zero sense to me. I documented a long post on TigerNet about all of DJ's throws. The passing game was just not working. The receivers were not getting open. They dropped a lot of passes. DJ's accuracy wasn't there. I just can't figure out why they decided to just try to let him win the game. Syracuse, we're down by multiple scores, and we're just running the ball every play. South Carolina, we're winning the entire game except for the fourth quarter where we're down only by 1, and we barely run the ball. I mean, just a terrible coaching decision. I don't know what they were thinking. Obviously everyone's disappointed that game. We should not have lost to South Carolina. We were the better team. We got outcoached. Simple as that. North Carolina comes along. I remember thinking, I don't really want to watch this game because DJ's starting. And at that point, 8 of 29 against South Carolina. He was just terrible. The offense just wasn't going to work. We know this now, right? And he's starting. I was pretty upset about it. And then obviously his start was terrible. I tell people to this day, if DJ plays that entire game, we lose to North Carolina. And I firmly believe that. If you look at the first play of the first play of the game and the first play of the third quarter, same exact play, literally the same exact play. DJ throws the ball and got his feet, and then Cade hits him in stride. One's an incomplete pass, the other's a 6-yard gain. I think of that. I mean, just Cade's obviously the guy. Just I don't know what happened with DJ, but Streeter maybe regressing or Streeter. I don't know. Maybe it's a confidence issue. Don't know. The kid's obviously really talented, and I wish him well at Oregon State. But 39-10 over North Carolina. Yeah, that was a positive. Seeing Cade play like that, seeing our receivers make plays, that was a big positive. I didn't think necessarily that would lead to a victory in the bowl game, but it gave me hope for the next season. Like, okay, Cade, the mistakes he makes are really just freshman mistakes. The accuracy is there. He has enough on his deep ball. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has enough. His accuracy, his speed is going to become a factor at some point once he makes better decisions. I was pretty happy about the future. Cole Turner showed out that game. He still has a lot to work on, but I like his potential. Then we get to the bowl game. I've never seen anything quite like it, where we just drive on them and drive on them and drive on them, and just for some reason can't convert anything. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I can't go back and watch the film on what Tennessee was doing like the coaches can. I'm sure they'll figure out what went wrong. But again, I mean, just not running the ball doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I don't know. Like, we get down so close and just stop running the ball. Doesn't make, like, there was that one drive I can remember, the running game literally got us all the way down to, like, the 10-yard line, and then we just try to throw after that. Just makes no sense. Just poor coaching, in my opinion. Disappointed after that game, 31-14. I mean, Tennessee's, they were gutted offensively. I mean, backup quarterback, missing their top 2 wide receivers. Their defense was awful all year. I mean, you saw what Rattler and South Carolina did to their defense. The fact that our offense couldn't score more than 14 is pretty disheartening. And then just see our offense line get beat like that was pretty disheartening. And then, defensively, we gave up a couple big plays, but I kind of expected that. That's exactly what their offense is designed to do. I thought they played pretty well until the very end, where it kind of felt like they were out of gas because the offense just wasn't putting enough points on the board. Obviously, the play that Pride getting burnt was pretty bad, but at that point, I kind of felt like they they'd really lost much of their confidence. They probably didn't think we were going to win the game, and it was tough. But I wasn't totally disappointed in our defense. I kind of expected that type of performance. I predicted 31-27 Clemson, but the way the offense played was just bad. So yeah, I don't think the totality of the season can be considered a disappointment, right? 11 wins, that's very hard to do, no doubt about it. ACC championship, that's big. Obviously, winning a championship is awesome. But go week by week, and you're disappointed in most of the games that we have, right? Georgia Tech, Furman, LA Tech, Wake, Florida State, Syracuse, Notre Dame, South Carolina, like you're disappointed most of the time. Because simply we know that we can be better. We're more talented than pretty much every team we play. But, we play so poorly. That's my thoughts on this season. Overall, not a disappointment, but week by week, I was disappointed more often than not. But, I like Cade. Depending on what happens with the transfer portal, who we lose, maybe who we gain, we'll see what happens with that. I do think Cade's going to be really good, and, I think we can be better. I think we can be better next year than what we were this year, but all of that depends on what happens between now and pretty much spring, right? Who do we lose and who do we gain? If we lose people and don't pick anybody back up, obviously I think we'll be worse, which is why I predicted 9-3 next year. I'm already working off the assumption that coaches won't use the transfer portal. And if they don't and we lose people, then we're definitely going to be a worse football team next year. But that's my thoughts. Probably going to make more videos. I kind of like this platform a little bit better than going back and forth on TigerNet. I can voice my opinions a lot easier. Probably sound more reasonable on video than I do in text. But I look forward to going back and forth with everybody. But again, Leon Trotsky. See y'all later.